You know the story of Joseph in Egypt, right? Sold into slavery by his brothers, somehow becomes the second most powerful man in the entire country. It's one of those stories we all think we know inside and out. But what if I told you there's a huge historical mystery hiding right in plain sight? Let's dig in and see if we can piece this puzzle together.
Okay, so the whole story, the entire thing, really boils down to Joseph's relationship with the guy in charge, the Pharaoh. So, who was he? What was his name? This all-powerful ruler who trusts a Hebrew slave to save his entire nation? Here's the thing. The Bible never actually says. It just calls him Pharaoh. That's it. No name, no dynasty, nothing. And you might think, okay, a missing detail. But for historians, oh no, this is where it gets good. That missing name isn't a dead end. It's actually our very first clue. It turns us into historical detectives. So, history's unnamed pharaoh. Since we can't just, look up his name in the records, our whole investigation has to start somewhere else entirely. We've got to work backward, using the clues we do have to build a case. And here's the logic. To find our pharaoh, we first need to find the right time period, right? If we can just nail down when Joseph was actually in Egypt, we can then look at the historical records and see who was ruling at that specific time. The timeline? It's absolutely everything. Okay, so let's follow the biblical timeline. Our first move is to dive into the chronology laid out in the text itself. But, and this is a big but, it's not as simple as you might think. We can't just add up a few dates. There are a couple of major variables in play here that can shift the entire timeline by centuries. And this is where things get, well, a little complicated. There are two big historical variables we have to deal with. First, the date of the Exodus. Scholars are split. Was it an early Exodus, around 1446 BC, or a late one, closer to 1290 BC? That's a big gap. And then there's the question of how long the Israelites were even in Egypt. Was it 430 years or 215? Different manuscripts suggest different lengths. And depending on which combination of these you choose, your whole timeline gets thrown off. So let's crunch the numbers real quick. If you take that early date for the Exodus, 1446 BC, and work backward, you land Joseph's arrival somewhere around 1896 BC. Okay, but if you use the late Exodus date, 1290 BC, you get a totally different answer, around 1740 BC. We're talking about a gap of more than 150 years. That's a huge difference. And listen, this isn't just some boring academic debate about numbers. These two dates don't just change the year, they place Joseph into completely different versions of ancient Egypt. We're talking different rulers, different politics, a totally different world. All right, so let's look at our two prime suspects. Theory 1, the earlier date, around 1896 BC. This would put Joseph right in the middle of the powerful 12th dynasty, a real golden age for native Egyptian pharaohs. But Theory 2, the later date, around 1740 BC, that puts him under the rule of the Hyksos. And who were they? A mysterious group of foreign rulers who weren't even Egyptian, who had taken over the whole kingdom. So, a powerful native dynasty or a group of foreign invaders? These are our two main theories. Now, you can make a case for either one, but there's a really compelling pile of circumstantial evidence that has a lot of historians leaning towards that later date. It seems like the clues hidden in the story of Joseph itself, they point directly at these foreign rulers, the Hyksos. Okay, let's break down the case for the Hyksos. There are 5 key clues. Clue number 1, the horses. The story mentions horses, right? But here's the thing, most historians believe it was the Hyksos who first brought horses and chariots into Egypt. Interesting. Clue number 2, the foreigner factor. Just think about it. How likely is it that a super proud native Egyptian pharaoh would make a foreign Semitic slave his second in command? It seems unlikely. But under the Hyksos, who were also foreign Semites, suddenly it makes a whole lot more sense. Clue 3, the capital's location. The story is set in the Nile Delta, near Goshen. Well, guess what? That's exactly where the Hyksos set up their capital, not where the traditional Egyptian pharaohs ruled from. Clue 4 is a tiny detail, but it's so telling. The text calls Joseph's old boss, Potiphar, an Egyptian. Why would you need to point that out? You'd only do that if the people in charge, the ruling class, were not Egyptian. And finally, clue number 5, the new king. The Bible says a new king who did not know Joseph rose to power. This fits perfectly with history. A native Egyptian dynasty eventually kicked out the Hyksos and took back control. Of course, they wouldn't know or care about Joseph. They'd want to erase everything from that period.
So when you put all these pieces together, it's pretty amazing. I mean, is it 100% definitive proof? No. But it creates this incredibly coherent picture. It's a powerful solution to a puzzle that's been around for a very, very long time.
So why is the Hyksos theory so compelling? Well, it lines up the biblical story with a real known period of foreign rule in Egypt. It makes Joseph's crazy rise to power actually seem plausible. It also gives us a perfect historical reason for why the Israelites went from being honored guests to slaves under a new native dynasty. It makes all those little puzzling details click into place.
So could a mysterious group of shepherd kings really be the key to one of history's greatest biblical puzzles? It's pretty amazing to think about. The next time you hear the story of Joseph, remember that unnamed pharaoh. His missing name isn't a mistake. It's a clue. It might just be the very thing that unlocks the real historical world behind one of the most famous stories ever told.